The Mac and Pete Project.
All right, everyone, and welcome to our next episode. We're just going to talk about new and future stuff coming up in Hollywood and our thoughts about it.
Yeah, this is the blah episode. This is the filler episode of TNG.
Oh, there weren't that many.
As long as it's not a Riker flashback episode.
All right.
So we'll be okay. Season 2, the ending. I think the reason that I wanted to do this, because there's a lot of good stuff coming out, but that has a lot of bad hype. I mean, that's really what it's been about lately. And Pete and I have discussed this. We thought a lot of it is just clickbait on YouTube, is a lot of it. But there are some things that I find concerning about one of them, and the one is the new Lord of the Rings that Amazon's putting out. And the word that's being thrown around is nudity. And Pete, we've talked about this, I don't want to say in length, but we've more than just once, where we both consider that there is family content and then there is adult content. And I don't know about you, between the books that Tolkien wrote and Peter Jackson's adaptation to film, I'm not saying that it's adult content. I'm saying that that's family content right there. That's my opinion. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
No, pretty much the same. The most concerning comment I've seen was directly from Jeff Bezos, wanting to make this Amazon's Game of Thrones, and just wanted something that's going to stick around for 8 seasons and going to be full of sex and violence. And it's like, is this really the appropriate material for that?
And it's not like he's trying to adapt Conan the Barbarian from Robert E. Howard. That was full of it, even for that time period, for the early 1900s, you know, the 20s and 30s. Even for that time period, yeah, he had a lot of risque material, but Tolkien doesn't. Or even the short writings, the Silmarillion, the Hobbit, the Lord of the Rings, there wasn't in there. Now, I did read an article that they were talking about the nudity is not going to be sexual. So then I'm sitting there thinking, well, then what's the point? I don't know about when it comes to nudity. Now, you can throw back to Peter Jackson's in The Hobbit, where he had the dwarfs in the fountain in Rivendell. They were naked jumping in, and you saw their butts. Of course, that was hilarious. But if that's what we're talking about, I have no problem with it, because I think that's funny. And I wouldn't mind sitting there, you know, with the kids and you know, asking the questions start flying. That doesn't bother me. But a heated moment and there's more going on, and no, that's because those are things that you do want to share with your, well, I don't know about everyone else, but there's family time and then there's adult time. So, and Lord of the Rings, I think, is one of those things that can be family time. But
yeah,
besides, you know,
this is just one of those troublesome tidbits we've learned of this series so far, because it's like, I mean, essentially this is going to end up being a prequel, but not really, because it's like 1,000 or so years in the past before we've known any of these characters. The source material is from the Silmarillion, which I'm not too familiar with, but what I am familiar about is it's basically just a guide to the world and how it works, and just like short stories that aren't really stories. And it seems like, you know, the average Hollywood writer is just going to fail with this. And you could hire a great writer and I'm sure create a great story in this framework. But I forget who they hired, but it's just like, I want to say it's going to be the Alex Kurtzman of Lord of the Rings.
So and I don't know if you remember this, Pete, in Lord of the Rings, Gandalf is talking to Frodo, and or it might have been the Hobbit, but anyway, it was one of Peter Jackson's. But Gandalf's talking to either Bilbo or Frodo. They were talking about wizards, and he goes and he explains that there's Radagast the brown, and then the head, which is Sauron the white, and he goes the blues. Well, I don't quite remember their names, so I didn't know this, but Peter Jackson only had the rights to The Hobbit and to The Lord of the Rings. The two blue wizards only appear in the Silmarillion, I believe. So that's why he couldn't use their names. And it was a clever way of getting around that. So legal-wise, the Tolkien estate can break up the books however way that they want. To my understanding, right now they have the rights to the Annals of the Kings. No, the Annals of the Kings and the Rulers is one, and the Silmarillion. So those are the source materials, and you're completely correct, because I've read the Silmarillion. I have not read the Annals of the Kings unless it was one of those that was attached with like Lord of the Rings as a bonus, like Return of the King, which there was a few that were. So I'm not remembering that one off the top of my head. So you're correct. That would be like somebody who is not familiar with the original series of Star Trek and coming in and trying to write about an original series episode that has no real basis about it. You and I could probably do that with our eyes closed because of knowledge. There's a ton of knowledge in the Silmarillion. There's a ton of it that could be expanded upon. And the other thing that's very important, that you have to stay within the lore. You have to stay within that flavor, that vein. And it takes a lot of effort to do that.
I think another analogy would be like, let's say after Cecil B. DeMille made the Ten Commandments, he was going to go make Leviticus or Proverbs into an epic 4-hour film. And it's like, Proverbs, Psalms, and Leviticus. I mean, Leviticus is like just a book of laws, saying everything.
That would be, and you're correct. How would you adapt something to that nature? Oh, this is how it came to be, Yeah, I can get that, but you're right. What is actually there besides and I think what Tolkien was trying to do was he was really trying to world building before that was even a thing, is really what he was trying to do. Because what you have, Tolkien, he had 3 different ages, and what we're talking about would be the second age. Yeah, would be the second age, and that's where, because the Silmarillion starts at the first age and goes all the way through. What we're talking about is The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings all happened in the third age of Middle Earth history. So there's a ton of stuff. There's Sauron's rise to power. There's the Ring Wraiths. There was that game a few years back, the Shadows of Mordor, and who forged the rings, the elf Celebrimbor. I mean, there's a lot of material there, but the problem with it is it's just little throwaways. There's not a lot of background. And you're right, if there was a writer who loved the material, who, could sit there and answer trivia questions like it's the back of his hand, it would turn out great. But if
we all know Amazon could afford the best writer, but whether or not they're going to take the time to find the best writer, because they feel like this is going to make money for them no matter what.
And that's what scares me, because we've seen it before where they ignore the artistry, they ignore the actual time it takes to make something good and great. And you could be right. They might be going, hey, look what HBO did with Game of Thrones. Let's just do that. We'll buy Lord of the Rings. right, let's just put a bunch of TNA in it, and let's go crazy with the sex and blood and gore. It'll make us millions of dollars. And
So
the funny thing is, there's another Lord of the Rings, and it's another prequel coming out, which is set 300 years before that's coming out.
or Game of Thrones, you mean?
The new Game of Thrones, which is the House of the Dragon. So which probably that'll bring us to our next one here.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure George R.R. Martin doesn't have any connection to the show, I'm guessing, because he hasn't even finished writing his series that the show worked on. So it's like,
and that's the thing. I mean, I've read things where he's on like the second to last or the last book right now, and he's like, I don't look for it to be finished until 2023, 2024, and he's trying. There was a point, I think it was season 2 or 3, where the books surpassed. The series surpassed where the books were, and then they ran into now we have almost 2 separate stories going on.
See, I think he purposely slowed down because I think he wanted to see how the show would fail. So whatever he does would be better by default.
That could be his marketing ploy. I mean, because I've heard him talk about. I saw an interview with him and Stephen King, and they were talking about how they wrote, and a big influencer for Martin was Tolkien, and it's kind of funny how that they play off each other. Now you look at Martin's; he's a lot more vivid. He's a lot more adult oriented. Now, if somebody said they were going to do that, the nudity and sexualize it in that, no qualms, no problem with that. But the story-wise, where they're trying to set up, it is from what I've read, it's 300 years in the past from the events we saw in the Game of Thrones series. And they're talking about how the silver-haired ones, by golly, Targaryens, how the Targaryen house came from the other continent into Westeros and took over and united all the kingdoms. So we know the events, we know how it happened, we've just never seen it. So, and we've talked about this, how prequels aren't the best choice to go. And if we use Star Wars as an example, if you go from having the great, which everyone remembers, of Han Solo and Luke Skywalker, the original trilogy, which is actually in the middle of what we now know as the Star Wars film franchise, he went back and did a prequel. So it was great that the last 3 came out because it makes the prequel look amazing. But when it first came out, there were inconsistencies. There was, because the filming had changed, and it didn't feel as rich. It didn't feel as vibrant. It felt kind of forced. I mean, how do you feel about anytime someone does a prequel?
I mean, prequels can be good if you're passionate about it. I mean, we can look at The Godfather Part 2 as part prequel, and a
majority of it.
Yeah, and it's also The Godfather 2 is basically regarded as the best sequel,
the best of the 3. Yeah,
but just sequels in general, like it and Empire Strikes Back are constantly in the top 5 list of best sequels. But anyway, back to your question about prequels, they can be good if you're passionate about the material and not lazy. Like the biggest thing about Star Wars prequels is George didn't want to shoot on location, wanted to put minimum amount of effort into the script. He had a great grand idea. It was just all the nuances of directing and writing were just incredibly lazy, and a lot of people don't notice it. And there's a lot of kids who were kids at the time and grew up with those movies and loved them. And I was just watching a YouTuber the other day, and she said her favorite Star Wars film was Revenge of the Sith, and it's like, oh, it's like after she criticized the Phantom Menace and the Attack of the Clones, and it's like, I don't understand how you can hold that one so high if you criticize those other two. But it's just a ton of little things. Like you can see how lazy it is, because it's like, oh, the Jedi robes it's like, oh, Obi-Wan dressed like that, so all Jedi dressed like that. And then you watch episode 4, A New Hope, again, and you see Uncle Owen and Luke Skywalker dressed as Jedi. And it's like, why? No. Obi-Wan was wearing robes because he was living in the desert. Why would he be dressed as a Jedi if he was hiding? You know?
Yeah.
And it's just like, all the small stuff like that just makes the prequels so dumb. And, you know.
Well, one of my so I think Empire and I think Return of the Jedi are probably the best two of the original trilogy. One of the biggest reasons is, I think when George Lucas is left to his own devices, bad things happen. And then you have, and like I said, when you look at the sequel trilogy to the prequels and the original, the newest ones that have come out, the final Skywalker trilogy closure, what you have is a lot of people who grew up with all 6 and have no real comprehension of what George's final story was supposed to be, and it didn't feel like a closure. And all it really ended up was just a lot of fan toting, and this was really cool, and let's do more of this. And it was, and you're right, it was lazy writing, it was lazy concepts. There was never. I didn't have that
in place for the sequels. Like it
Correct.
was like, we're going to let each director writer team go where they want, and it's like,
yeah, it was almost it was.
If you're planning on having 3 movies, you need to have an end goal, you know.
Correct, and you needed to have
with the original trilogy, making it up as you go, because it's like it's brand new material, and
correct,
you have a competent team of writer directors, because it's like George Lucas didn't write or direct Jedi or Empire. You know?
And that's exactly why I'm saying when he was left to, he had an idea, and then people, oh, this is cool, let's do that, and that's when it you know, and that was like anything that people really grow to love is when you take a diverse group of people and include all their ideas and really go, oh, that's, you know, I like that, let's do that, oh, you know, and you're bringing writers together and ideas, as opposed to just one guy going, no, I like this, we're doing that. You know, I mean, look at the Indiana Jones franchise. That's another one, you know. And Crystal Skulls came, and we're going to get another one here soon. So we'll see how that one pans out.
I mean, last month Harrison Ford got injured on set, so production.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a young buck anymore. But I was reading something, and I wanted to know if you knew this. Did you know in Star Trek V who they wrote Cyborg's character for?
No.
Sean Connery.
I can see it now, but yeah.
So they wrote it for Sean Connery, and the reason he couldn't do it was because he was filming Indiana Jones.
Well,
so as an homage to him, they called the planet Shakari, Sean Connery.
Oh my goodness.
Do
you have
just saying that
source for that, or is that just
no, it wasn't. It wasn't one of my petty, terrible jokes. It wasn't. I'll send you the link, but
okay.
I forget where I read it. But it was. It might even have been a YouTuber that I was watching, but I didn't know that, and I thought it was good.
So, we'll have to do an episode on how the prequels disappointed me. Because just one quick thing, it's another small thing. It's a cumulative of small things. In episode 2, where you go into the room where Yoda's training all the younglings with their lightsabers. They're like all standing like 3 feet apart when they should be like in a gymnasium, spread out like 20 feet apart. And, they didn't do that because they were filming on a green screen. But anyway, what are the kids wearing in that scene?
Mini Obi-Wan outfits.
Right? But also, what's on their head?
Oh, was it the helmet that Luke wore?
Exactly. And what were they fighting with? A little blaster ball going around. And those were 2 items that Obi-Wan just found on the Millennium Falcon and be like, oh, here, this is how you can start learning a lightsaber thing. Now,
it wasn't
just randomly have Jedi training material on his ship where he doesn't believe in the hokey pokey force, or were the writers that lazy of this like, oh, this is how Luke learned, so this is how all Jedi learned. So I have a
no. I know what you to unpack all of the prequel films and their inconsistencies, and it takes a while, and
there's randomly a 1950s diner. What?
Boldly going where no man has gone before, in a galaxy far away.
All right. So, speaking of Mark Hamill, I first learned of this movie's existence on an Instagram post that he made, where he's going to be doing the voice of... Oh, I was waiting for you to say it.
Oh, Skeletor.
There we go. I didn't want to say something stupid like Cobra Commander and get it wrong.
No,
but I was going to say Skeletor.
No, I thought you wanted me to do Skeletor, and I was trying to think of something to say. I was thinking,
I'll get you for this, He-Man.
He always used to talk like that with that high. And Mark Hamill, he can.
But doesn't Cobra Commander sound like that too?
Yeah, Cobra Commander does sound like that too. Now that I think about it, but he wasn't as like. Cobra Commander was more like snivelly. It was like, like that. Where Skeletor was more sinister, Evelyn. That was more Skeletor. As you can tell, I have very fond memories of that was one thing. I think before you met the Admiral, Admiral Robb used to we would play with the He-Man characters in the sandbox underneath his parents. There was like what they call like not a birdhouse, but the eagle's nest. Here's another one where there's been a lot of mixed reviews, and Silent Bob was responsible for the creation of this. What's his last name, Pete?
Kevin Smith, or?
Yeah, Silent Bob. Yes, Kevin Smith. So
the animation, it's like I'm sold on the animation alone. And I never watched He-Man, but I'm like excited for this because I'm like, this animation is spot on.
So, and for me, the throwback to 80s kid cartoons, there was He-Man, Thundercats, and She-Ra. So they all seem to be like in the same universe, but She-Ra and He-Man were the only two that really were. Now, He-Man, which was great because it was the greatest marketing ploy in American history, because there was Hasbro or Mattel or somebody, one of the big toy companies, had a toy line from nothing. It wasn't like, hey, we have a Scooby-Doo figure from Scooby-Doo, we have Star Wars figures from Star Wars. It wasn't that. It literally was, we just made a bunch of figurines that had no story behind them.
Yeah, that was essentially the same with Transformers, but yeah.
Yeah. So that's what and then all of a sudden, boom, they made this. And what I loved about it was it was kind of like G.I. Joe, where they always ended the episode with like a meaningful, "Hey kids, you know what's happening now," that type of thing. And they would teach a lesson that revolved around the story. Now, I mean, we can get into whether allegory is important in a story, or can you just tell a story. I guess it just depends on what the story is and what you're doing. I mean, Tolkien was a huge anti allegory. He was not a proponent of it, but I think that there are time and occasions when you can use simile and symbolism in a story to really push an idea, push a thought forward, especially for kids. And then they're like, in case you missed it, this is what we were talking about. And you're right. You don't get that kind of animation very often, where it looks like somebody spent hours upon hours just on one cell and then went to the second cell. It wasn't like how they do it now. It looks legit. It looks great. And Mark Hamill is Skeletor. I'm not up on who the other actors are. I was kind of hoping to leave myself a little bit of a blank slate and just kind of watching from the trailer.
I think a lot of the backlash is coming from the alpha male community, because apparently She-Ra's heavily involved in this, and He-Man might only be a side character.
So I don't know if it's She-Ra or if it's Teela. And Teela, and it's hard to sometimes to. She-Ra was on a different world from what I remember, and battled a different antagonist. Anyway,
yeah.
But Teela was the daughter of Man-at-Arms. And okay, so let's unpack that for a second. It's called Masters of the Universe. The show's called Masters of the Universe. Okay? The original was called He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. I have no problem with a female lead in the same universe and called Masters of the... It's not like you said He-Man and the Masters of the Universe and then it's bait and switch. You've now changed it.
Bait and switch. Bait and switch. Bait and switch.
No, there was no switch. No switch.
To Teela.
Does He-Man have a last name?
So no, that's kind of like he's Batman type of deal. That's his.
Okay.
So
I was gonna say, it's not like they did like a Rey Skywalker instead. She-Ra He-Man.
No. So in the original story of He-Man, Prince Adam, who's the son of the King and Queen of Eternia, Prince Adam gets the Sword of Power from Castle Grayskull. And the sorceress is the protector of Castle Grayskull. And the sword, when he lifts it in the air and said, boom, I have the power, he turns into... I have the power.
The power!
Now, he's a great voice actor. I forget his name, but he's been on Family Guy dozens of times doing that. But he turns into He-Man at that point. So...
When you mention that, I just think about Seth MacFarlane doing the Thundercats, and he does a great Lionel. Have you ever heard?
Snarf, snarf, snarf.
I think I said Snarf earlier, and I'm like, oh wait, that's not He-Man.
Wrong one.
I remember Admiral Rob would do that. Snurf.
Sure.
Anyway, I think it's safe to say we're both excited for it, right?
I'm excited for it. I'm really looking forward. And you're right. A lot of the problems are comments from the guys who just want to have a new version of what they saw before.
Mm-hmm.
And how do I want to put this? So I don't know if I'm weird, but I'm going to use I'm going to use myself. When I was a kid, my grandfather used to tell me stories about when he was in China during World War II. And I fell in love with these stories. But then when I was growing up, there was Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee. There were films from Hong Kong. Well, I would fantasize as a kid pretending to be Bruce Lee or Jackie Chan. And growing up where we did, I got made fun of because, well, that guy's Chinese, you're not Chinese. And I said, well, he's a guy and he's cool. What's the difference? That's what's going on in my head. And they're looking at just what they see and the culture. So I don't know if that's what's going on with these guys, where they see a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, maybe an Aryan-looking fella, because that's what the original He-Man looked like, and they can't see themselves as anything. I don't know if that's a part of it, but I think other people should have a chance at being the hero in the story. I think Tila and whoever else that they want to write in and have a deeper. He-Man already had his shot. You know, let's have other heroes. I'm okay with female. And the other, here's something that really grinds my gears. You know, Family Guy throw in is they're on planet Eternia. They're not on Earth. So I'd like to think, like in Star Trek, like we're not. The problems we have here are not on planet Eternia. On planet Eternia, they're okay with Tila being the new He-Man or She-Ra, or that's okay because it's the content of her character and not the way she looks. You know, so that might be the alpha male perspective: is I don't want to lose my power, whatever little it may be. I don't know. I'm excited for it. He-Man. So.
Sticking with the 80s, got a new trailer from Ghostbusters Afterlife this week. Have you seen it?
I have not. Do you have it sitting there on a magic thing that we can see it directly?
Your father wasn't much of a homemaker. He could hardly keep the power on.
You're saying he left us nothing?
Well, I wouldn't say nothing.
We're closed.
Now, did you catch? Was that Bill Murray's voice at the end?
No, it was Dan Aykroyd.
I wasn't. That was the bookshop.
Oh, pause 1 second. Start over again.
So at the end, was that Bill Murray or Dan Aykroyd?
That was Dan Aykroyd at the occult bookstore.
At the occult bookstore. Okay. I thought, because I was like, I just probably wanted it to be Bill Murray because you know how big of a fan of Bill Murray I am. But yeah. Now, besides Masters of the Universe, I would say that's a close second to what I'm excited for.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because you have to look back at that semi-attempt at the remake with all the women of SNL.
Yeah, I still haven't watched it.
Yeah, you're not missing anything.
Yeah.
The cinematography was bad. The writing was it was like a 2 hour long SNL skit.
Yeah, I've only watched the Red Letter Media Mr. Plinkett review of it, which is probably about 2 hours long.
That was probably more entertaining than actually watching it. So yeah. You're fine. So
yeah, I'm excited because I'm like, it looks like it has all the staples of what you should do with a sequel.
Well, the other thing is, Jace, Ivan Reitman's son is doing this, correct?
Yeah.
Jason,
and Ivan's on work like a consultant producer as well.
So these are all the same players. This is what I think should be when you do a sequel, when you already have the same people doing it. You have some people with the same mindset, you know.
What I like is the juxtaposition. We're no longer in New York City. We're out in the country.
Yeah.
Where it's not. It seems like the legend of the Ghostbusters has faded into just obscure online YouTube videos.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, did you notice a lot of the same effects that they used in the first one, like the streaming of the ghosts? I like that parallel. I really enjoyed
Yeah, and basically, it's like almost confirmed now that the children, or the main group of children, are Egon's grandkids, and it looks like
that. Yes,
him and Janine actually married and such.
could be. And
Well, I think she even references it's like your father could never keep the
Well-
lights on. Yeah.
well, here's the thing about that. Because remember, number 2, she was all over Rick Moranis' character. So I don't know if she's still just the secretary or not.
Yeah. No,
I don't know.
I'm putting my money on that her and Egon got together.
Well, she always had like the hots for Egon anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And I love because my favorite character from the original was the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. So I like the
and
little
I think this is
marshmallow
done
guy.
appropriately because it's like paying homage but not having the same villain again. Right now they're just
Correct.
hilarious little minions or gremlins. Yeah.
I wasn't sure if they were gonna, because Oscar from the second one was Sigourney Weaver's child.
Yeah.
He would be about the right age to be that. Now, I don't know if they're going to plan on a sequel. A cool sequel would be like there's remnants of like Vigo left and he turns into a villain. That could be a neat go on a villain too.
So. And also notice they haven't spoiled the Bill Murray cameo yet, or Ernie Hudson. So
I loved all those guys. Those guys, and they fit together. They seem like guys that actually work together. You know, it wasn't like they forced Bill Murray and Chevy Chase into a movie.
yeah.
Well, Caddyshack was good, but.
Well, I was gonna say, oh no, Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase and Spies Like Us.
They work well together. I know Bill and Chevy they're not the best of pals.
Well, I don't think anyone is best of pals with Chevy.
That's probably true.
All right. Want to talk about Star Wars for a little bit? I know there's probably like 10 new shows coming out, and it's just like, oh no, slow down. I don't, because there's supposed to be a Cassian Andor show, Rangers of the New Republic, Acolytes, and a continuation of Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and then the Book of Boba Fett. So
right now, as it stands, I'm all caught up in the Mandalorian, but Mandalorian season 2 sets up the Book of Boba Fett, and also sets up Ahsoka, because Ahsoka was in season 2, but also this is the first. Mandalorian was the first time that we saw a live action version of Ahsoka Tano.
Right, and apparently the new Ahsoka show is supposed to be carrying the storyline of Mandalorian forward.
Okay.
So I think it's supposed to be like the new. I don't know if there's going to be another Mando season, because it's like it seems like this arc is pretty much complete.
Yeah, where are you going to go with that? This is true.
The biggest thing is Mando now has the Darksaber, so he's technically the true leader of Mandalore now.
This is correct.
So are they going to go into regaining control of Mandalore after the Imperial genocide? Because I think that's correct. Like Mandalore after the Clone Wars is just basically occupied by the Empire, and basically that's why they're all scattered about the galaxy.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think I think his story is pretty much done. I don't know where else they could go with that. I think Boba Fett needs some closure. I'm glad they're doing what they're doing with her. Ahsoka definitely needs it. Ahsoka is another one of those characters that didn't get explored very well. I don't want to say very well. Could be have been explored more in Clone Wars to this point, and I do think that she has more of a story to be told.
Yeah, and I want with her show to be like the end of Ahsoka. It's like she keeps popping up, and it's like it's time to give this character some conclusion. All right, she survived the Clone Wars. She was in Rebels. Now, Mando.
So you brought up Rebels.
Yes.
Right now, we know that Admiral Thrawn is chasing Bridger in the, what's that called, the Forbidden Zone, or the Forbidden Area outside in that part of the galaxy,
territories or something. Yeah, the unknown regions.
So I'm curious to see where that story's going to go with that, because Ahsoka could go that direction, or they could make a whole new series extending Rebels in a live action version.
Yeah, my only complaint is like why. Well, never mind. I got the timelines a little confused because it's like Mando's only like 5 years after Jedi, so
right.
It's acceptable timeline.
Yeah, so right now we're between the original and the
we're closer
sequel
to
trilogy.
the original, much closer.
We're closer to the original, yes.
Which is where
which is a great place to be.
Yes. Which is kind of where the sequel trilogy should have been, I think.
I think so as well. And the other thing is, you mentioned Endor. And I'm one of those weird Star Wars fans that love Endor and love my little teddy bear friends, the Ewoks. Now,
I'm still confused if Endor is a planet or a moon.
Endor is a moon.
They say the forest moon of Endor. So are they actually on Endor, or is Endor a planet and they're on the forest moon that belongs to Endor?
Let's unpack this. It's kind of like when we see Andalore in Star Trek, because it is a moon of the planet Andori. Yes.
Well, the other thing I want to bring up is like you only see like one globe the whole entire time we were at Endor. So it's like, what planet is Endor orbiting, and why don't?
So there is and if you ever notice, there is a gas giant with rings around it, and there are several moons. And if you listen to the dialogue, the forest moon of Endor, the farthest moon of Endor. I don't ever remember them giving the forest moon a name, but it's like it's referenced as it's Endor. But that the moon where the Ewoks live, the planet it orbits is called Endor. The moon is not called Endor. So, and that might be, and the other thing is, I don't know if Disney made some of the legendary stuff canon or not, but what is in the film is the forest moon of Endor, and you see the planet.
It looks like they're calling it Sanctuary Moon. So Endor is the planet, and then the moon.
Yeah.
Okay, so
and I think that there were like 3 of them, because I remember that there was.
It says 9 moons.
9 moons. Okay.
But it's like they did a really bad job of showing moons orbiting that planet. So did you ever watch in the 80s there? Lucasfilms came out with 2 extra called the Ewok Adventures. I've never watched them, but I've heard of them.
I loved them when I was a kid because I love Ewoks. But they were supposed to take place before Return of the Jedi and after Empire, was the time frame that I remember. So what you see is, in that rendition, you definitely see Endor in the background. At night, you see 2 or 3 different moons that are in close proximity that orbit around Endor, but not around the forest moon or sanctuary moon. But so yeah, deep nerd cut right there, baby.
Anyway, about Endor.
I'm really looking forward to what they're going to do. Now, if they massacre all the Ewoks, I'm going to be massively upset. I'm going to demand that we have a parallel universe where Ewoks are alive.
Why do you think Endor is going to be in the Book of Boba Fett?
I don't know if it would be or not. I just that would be something that I don't know where. I mean,
so the title intrigues me. When you say the book of something, I instantly think religious text or specifically gospel, so it's someone's telling of a story. And
well, the other thing you have to
usually
think of,
someone doesn't tell a story about themselves. So if it's not going to be from Boba Fett's point of view, whose point of view would it be from?
well, Ming-Na's character, who does she play?
Fennec Ren or something.
Fennec Ren. So it could be from her perspective. So, and the other thing
what
is,
can we explore about Boba Fett? We can explore his childhood after the Clone Wars, or an unknown chapter
well,
is
technically, you could use Boba Fett as a vessel to tell more stories because he's still alive post Return of the Jedi.
Right. That's what I'm getting at.
So
what period are
you
we
could
gonna
explore
look
the Reds, what are they? The Red Suns or the Black Suns. You could explore Mandalore more. You could explore the origins of how the clones were created more. I mean,
So
there's
for Mandalorian, what we do know is from the period of Return of the Jedi, he was in the Sarlacc pit, and then when we see him in season 2 of Mandalorian, he is without his armor and has to reclaim it.
correct.
So that portion, because everyone's like, "Oh, how'd he get out of the pit?" So
Well, and
how do you
remember
get his armor?
when season 2 closes, the post credit scene was him and Ming-Na sitting on Jabba's throne.
Yes.
So could we tell a story about the smuggling, the black market of the Star Wars universe, and maybe have a cameo of Harrison Ford as Han Solo, or as we could see Billy D. Williams, Lando. We could see Lando Calrissian. I mean, there are some other ways, non-Jedi, non-Force areas that people like about Star Wars that you could tap into. But I'm curious to see where they're going to go with it. And the other thing that we have to remember Mandalorian was also titled Book 1 and Book 2. So that could be.
Oh, I didn't know that. I just read the chapter.
Because chapter, at the beginning, if when I'm remember, and Mandalorian was told from the perspective of Mandalorian. So, and the Book of Fett, it could be the same idea, the same type of storytelling that they're planning on using or going after. So, but
all right. So, where are you at in the MCU?
The last one that I saw was the end of Infinity Wars.
Okay, so you haven't.
So I'm not caught up on anything. Plus, we have a lot of stuff that's going to be coming out, and I think it would behoove us to do a retrospective, because we've talked about the timeline of how tight it really is when you watch all of them together. That 10-year time span of how great cinematically they fit together. And I guess we're on phase 3 now, phase 4, phase 3, phase 4 of the Marvel MCU. And I think a great comparison with BP is I'm a comic book guy and you're definitely a cinema guy. So I think if we draw parallels here, that might make an interesting conversation. But we have, in phase 4, we've got Spider-Man, No Way Home. We've got isn't that the next one?
I'm gonna say Black Widow's the start of phase 4, which came out a few weeks
Black Widow's the start of phase 4.
And then
we have
Shang-Chi, which is next month.
Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which I'm so excited for because Michelle Yeoh's in it and she's awesome. The Eternals, and what's his name who played Stark he's one of the leads, along with what's her name? Another British actress I really like. But that's another one that's coming out. Now, I wanted to ask you a question. Sony now still has or has lost the rights to Spider-Man and Venom.
No, they have him.
They have it.
It's
Along with X-Men and Deadpool, or is X-Men 20th
No.
Century Fox?
So they have a shared agreement of characters of Spider-Man with Disney. However, Sony has exclusive rights over all the villains of the Spider-Man villains. So
That'll make things interesting. Okay.
But anyway,
so that means that Sony, and there's a Venom 2 that's coming out that Shinzo Onigashima is in. What's the actor's name? Tom
Hardy.
Tom Hardy. Which I like the way he does that, so I'm curious to see that. But we're not going to see, as far as we know, a Tom Hardy Venom in the MCU.
As of right now, I don't think so.
Okay.
It's going to be its own story.
And then, does the MCU have an intent of? So, do you know who has the rights to X-Men right now?
Disney does now, since they bought Fox.
Disney does now. Are they planning their own?
Okay, so I think they're trying to find the right way to introduce them because of the recent events of WandaVision and Loki. The rushing in.
They're rushing in.
So it's there's the huge big mess. It looks like the multiverse is going to be a big factor in Phase 4, and it looks like Kang the Conqueror is going to be the new top.
Ooh, okay.
So
that's a good storyline.
He wasn't referred to as Kang. He was only referred to as. Oh wait, no, I think his name was Kang at one point, but they never called him Kang the Conqueror. But it was mostly referred to as He Who Remains.
So, from the comics, there's one storyline that would be interesting to see is the mutants versus the superhumans. That was a storyline. So I don't know where they would go with that, but I would be curious to see that on film. But I'm also curious to see who they're going to cast as a lot of the MCU version of Fox's characters.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. In Phase 4, we're also going to get the third installment of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep.
Volume 3.
And Thor: Love and Thunder as well. Which would be Thor 4.
Okay. Thor 4.
And also Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Okay. So we're assuming definitely the multiverse is going to be the biggest component of Phase 4.
Yeah, with the events of Loki and WandaVision, at least for the immediate future. Yeah.
Now, are they planning a Fantastic Four film?
Nothing officially yet.
Nothing officially. So my other question to you is, because I've been waiting a long time for this. Where do you know the status of Black Panther 2?
Oh, it's in there as well in Phase 4. I want to say February next year. I could be wrong.
So they're filming it right now?
I believe it's in at least pre-production.
Okay. Do we know anything about the storyline?
I believe Shuri's going to be replacing the Black Panther.
Okay.
Since Chadwick Boseman has passed. Okay. So here I got release dates. So What If is coming out this month, which is going to be an animated series. Shang-Chi, September 3rd. Eternals, November 5th. Hawkeye, I believe, is coming out in November. It's going to be a Disney Plus series. Ms. Marvel, which I think is another Disney Plus series that's going to be around Christmas. Spider-Man No Way Home, December 17th. Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, March 25th. Thor, Love and Thunder, May 6th. Black Panther for Wakanda Forever, July 8th, so next summer. The Marvels, I don't know what that is, November 2022. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, February 2023. And then Guardians of the Galaxy, May 2023. And
Okay.
it's definitely confirmed that Kang's going to be the main villain in Ant-Man Quantumania.
Okay. Because the reason, because maybe it was you that we talked about a while ago, that one of the titles that was thrown around out there was Black Panther, The Two Kings.
I don't think that
was that one that was floating out, or was that just a meme that I watched that for someone who likes Prince Namor?
Well, it would. You haven't made it to Endgame yet, right?
I have. Endgame.
Yeah, that's the conclusion to Infinity War.
Yes, where Tony Stark bought the dust. Yeah, bit the dust.
Yeah. So there's a scene where Okoye of Wakanda is talking to Black Widow.
Okay.
And she's talking about all these earthquakes and under the ocean. And Black Widow's like, we got other stuff to worry about, you know. So a lot of people are like, maybe that's how they're going to introduce Namor. So maybe in the Black Panther movie, they might bring out Namor.
They'll bring up more. So my favorite character from the comics was Prince Namor, and I have yet to see an adaptation on, because all of them have been cartoons. You know, I don't think that they really know what to do with him, because when you look at the DCU, they've already introduced Aquaman, and he's okay. I mean, but I don't know if they're like, oh, we're another King of Atlantis. You know, I think that he could be a really great character to use and have a lot of power, because in the comics, he's one of the Dark Avengers. He's one of the Defenders. He's, I think he joined Alpha Team at one point. That was the Canadian version of like the Avengers. But I think they were mutants. He was in the X-Men. I mean, he has, because the other thing, he's one of the oldest comic book characters that's out there, if not the oldest, because he came out in the 30s or 40s. Because I remember my grandfather's the one that introduced me to him. So I would really like.
Here's a bunch of stuff that doesn't have official which is going to be Captain Marvel 2 in late 2022. Moon Knight.
Okay.
She-Hulk. Loki Season 2. Secret Invasion. Because I believe they're going to start doing more stuff with the Kree and the Skrull.
Okay. Yeah, I can.
Yeah, and I think Deadpool 3 and Armor Wars is on there as well. But yeah.
So the MCU is pretty. They're heavy hitters. They're pretty bright. A bright outlook.
Yeah, they made it this far. I mean, you can see how many failed franchises of the 2010s are no longer here.
Yeah.
The Monsters. What was it? The
Universal the reboot of the Universal Monsters.
Sony really wanted to do a Ghostbusters universe. Jurassic World has lost so much steam. So, Avatar is whatever. I don't think I'm ever going to watch another Avatar movie.
They only had the first one. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not like there's a lot to build off of.
Yeah, and apparently there's like 6 or 7 of them in production all at the same time.
How can you have 6 or 7 in production?
It's James Cameron.
Don't you have to finish one to go into the other?
See, I don't get it. And then in the meantime, James Cameron's just been putting out bad Terminator sequels, and it's like, what? Can't you just concentrate on one thing?
He's bored. He's bored.
So, but I think that's about going to do it for today.
No, I think so. We've talked ourselves in a circle, Pete.
Yeah. What are we going to do next? Do we know?
Well, I know everybody who loves TNG would like us to get back to our deep dive of the seasons, but we're on hold because of a friend of ours.
Yeah, we got 3 more of those episodes to edit, so they're in the editing bay. So
yeah,
we got 3 more to edit.
Poor Pete has a lot to do, and the summertime we both like to be out and about doing stuff, and when we were heavy into production every week doing something, that's a whole different story. So I think maybe popping out a few more lists here as some neat quick videos would be probably a cool way to go. Because if we do a retrospective, that means hours of watching something.
Yeah. And then as soon as you get caught up in the MCU, because I want to do 1 episode fully dedicated to WandaVision, and then another one fully dedicated to Loki. Loki's only 6 episodes. I think Wanda's 8 episodes. But I
think on a rainy weekend we can shoot that. But we're getting close to. Unfortunately, summer's going to be going away, and we'll have the nice cool days of fall. So,
well, thanks for joining us, and we will see you guys next time.
Thank you.